car ride vlog in like forever, and I excuse the shakiness of this fucking camera because I have a mount and I just haven't gotten it set up yet. But hear me if you can. I went and saw Jumanji. Welcome to the Jungle, which is, if you're not familiar, the sequel to the original Jumanji movie that came out in, I don't know, fucking the 90s, I think. Probably, maybe, I don't know. First of all, I think I want to bring up the fact that I was not expecting it to be as good as it was, and it actually fucking was. It was actually really fucking good. And I'm not saying, like, okay, because here's the thing. If you're familiar with me and my channel, you know I'm a pretty cynical bastard. I don't really like a lot of stuff, specifically because it's bad. And, like, this seemed like one of those, like, easy-to-do cash grab sequels that was just, like, you know, completely monetizing on the idea of an established brand. You know, everybody remembers Jumanji, plus this is the era of, like, late game sequels. Like, you know, we're getting new Star Wars after 20, 30 years. We're getting new fucking Tron, you know, we're getting new whatever. We've gotten new shit for fucking forever now. But this, here's the thing though. This was one of the ones that, like, legit, I really did enjoy. And I'll explain to you why. So you go into the movie with this expectation of, I mean, well, first, you go into the movie with this expectation of it being bad because you're like, oh, it's just Jumanji 2. You're just gonna make another fucking Jumanji movie, and it's gonna be the shittiest Jumanji movie you've ever fucking seen. But you go into it, and you start, and, like, you notice right away that you're like, okay, they're not gonna play the same, like, they don't play it beat for beat in the way that you would expect them to. It's not like immediately like, well, here's the board game, you know, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, here's Robin Williams. Like, they didn't CG. First of all, I should mention, they don't CG Robin Williams' face into this movie. So I'll give them that. That's the first sin of movie making in the modern age now. Did you CG a dead actor? Because if you do that, maybe you should fucking stop. But you notice right away that they're not going to go beat by beat. They're not going to follow a simple structure. It's kind of like first of all, it's a body swap movie, which means that it's about a group of kids who find the Jumanji game that has now transformed into a basically like an Atari without directly being an Atari, because I'm sure that copyright was something they didn't want to pay for. So whatever. But, like, so they play this game, just like in the original, but in this time, instead of it being about the Jumanji board game coming to life and, like, bringing the Jumanji animals into our world, it's kind of like how Robin Williams originally played the game in his movie, where he got sucked into it for 20 years and then gets spit back out. So, like, so they get sucked into the game this time. And when they're in the game, they get to pick from these characters. So they get it's a play on video games, which that's the thing. Like, part of it is that you're like, oh, they're gonna do some stupid shitty thing with, like, video games. They don't do that. They make a few references to the fact that it's a video game. They're like, oh, you've got 3 lives, you know, you've got, like, a health bar and shit like that. But they don't immediately go like, hey, look at Super Mario Brothers, you know, like, there's none of that shit in it either. And you know exactly what I'm talking about, that kind of shit that you can be wont to do in a movie of that nature. Not a smart movie. I'll say this right now. It was not a smart movie, but it was, like, dumb in a way that I wanted it to be. It was dumb in a way that was, like, stupid on purpose. And when it never took itself too seriously, and when it did take itself seriously, it did it in just enough of a way that it wasn't terrible. I'm kind of in shock that I enjoyed it so much. The only downside I think I'd have is, like, okay, so, like, the characters, you get to meet the characters as they are in the real world, as, like, children, as, well, high schoolers, you know, and you get to know them a little bit through the high school experience, but, like, it's really played really quickly. The pacing at the start of the movie is actually kind of shit. The pacing at the start of the movie is literally just like, here's a kid who's nerdy and he's shy. Oh, and he gets detention. Here's a chick who's nerdy and she's kind of awkward. Oh, she got detention. Here's the preppy hot girl chick who takes selfies and duck faces. Oh, she got a detention. And here's the jockey fucking, you know, sports ball player, and oh, he got detention. Like, each of their characteristics are worn on their sleeve, and it's played entirely, like, completely on the nose. It's never ever once like, it's not subtle at all. It's very much like, here they are, bask in their glory of stereotypes, and you're like, oh, okay, this is gonna be shit, isn't it, right? But then you actually get into the movie, then you actually watch the movie, and you're like, oh, okay, so you're gonna do something that's actually subverting my expectations. Because The Rock and, like, you know, Karen Gillan and, like, Jack Black, like, they play these characters very straight. They play them much as their teenage counterparts, like, existed in the quote-unquote real world, but they do that with such a, like, actually, like, really good performance that you believe it. You actually believe that they are their characters, at least for a little bit. It's kind of like a ham-fisted mystery plot, like they're like, which is fine because you're like, oh, it's a board game. It's a fucking board game. They're playing a video game version of a board game. I guess that's exactly what you'd expect the board game to be about. You know, you have levels and you gotta go through them and you gotta solve the fucking mystery, and sometimes there's some cutscenes and it's like, it's okay. Jumanji is not a perfect movie. By any stretch of the imagination. I'm not even trying to say that it's like a top 5 contender for this year's best pictures or some, you know, underrated gems. Like, no, it's not. But you know what it is? Here's the best way to put Jumanji. You know what it is? It's a dumb kids movie that knows it's a dumb kids movie. And if you liked the original Jumanji, it's got just enough things in it to make it fun and entertaining enough that it's worth seeing. It was really good. I am so shocked as to how I actually laughed. There were jokes in it that made me laugh. There were funny, interesting character bits that made me laugh. And it wasn't ham-fisted in a way that it could have been. There were parts that were like very much, it was well edited. Like, believe it or fucking not, it was very well edited. There were parts of the movie where, I mean, I knew that they were going to survive, because obviously they're main characters in an action movie. Of course they're going to fucking survive, right? But there were parts where you're like, oh, this is actually kind of tense. This is actually kind of like got something going on for it. And it's not like, it's not complete gutter trash. So to draw a conclusion, to sort of put it into perspective so that, like, you understand what it is I'm trying to say without sounding like a complete asshole. Jumanji was fun. Jumanji was entertaining. And I really enjoyed the efforts that they put in to make the movie. The CG wasn't super duper dumb. There wasn't any, like, there were actually some tense moments, and there were some legitimate character growths. Okay, that's something I talk about a lot when I do movie reviews, is especially in, like, I think in the Star Wars prequels I talked about, it's like, there were never any arcs. Like, a lot of movies you watch, you're like, no character has an arc. And even though Jumanji was on the nose as shit, and, like, the arcs were, like, you could see them coming a mile away, even though they were still there. Each character had something they had to overcome and learn, and each character did it by the end, and they changed as people, and they learned a fucking lesson. And, like, I think that's what makes me so excited, is that I finally saw a movie, in what feels like years, I finally saw a movie that actually had real character development. It took fucking Jumanji 2 to see real character development in a movie! Oh my god! It's simple! It was simple action! It was a simple plot! It didn't need to be anything else! It was good! Jumanji was good! It wasn't great, but it was okay! I give it a 6 out of 10! I like Jumanji! Thank you!